Welcome to Digitel Talk Podcasts, where we spotlight entrepreneurs and innovators leveraging technology related to telecoms to drive positive global impact. I'm here with my co-host, Frankie Spagnolo, and we'll be talking today with Carlos Oba, who is founder and COO of Dots for Inc., who are bridging the gap between the rural and urban communities in Africa by enabling them to partake in the digital economy and create additional income for the villages. In this one podcast episode, we'll be finding out more about Carlos and discovering and unpacking his project.
Today's episode is sponsored by IFG Consulting Europe, a leading business growth consultancy representing promising software providers selling to the telecoms, enterprise and mobile markets in Europe. Go to ifgconsultingeurope.com to find out more.
Hi, Frankie.
Hi, Ian. I'm excited about this conversation. It's going to be an interesting discussion. What Carlos and the company at Dot are doing with their digital marketplace that has a potential to affect society on the ground, in the villages and the communities. And it's working to help bridge the digital divide. For us here at Digitel Talk, that checks a lot of boxes. And without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Carlos Oba. Carlos, hi. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me to the great opportunity in the podcast.
So I wanted to see if at first, just to give our listeners a little bit of an overview, if you could introduce the project and give us a quick high-level understanding of what you are doing and how you got involved.
Okay, so in Africa, people say booming, but it is only limited in the capital or cities. And there are more than 60%, 800 million people are unconnected and left behind from the development. So we, Dot4, want to connect them to the rest of the world and be in the part of the big economy, not like a small village economy. So we are building the digital infrastructure for them, providing the device and the service for them to increase their income. That's what we're doing in Africa, especially from West Africa, Benin. I'm now living with my family.
And you are going to go into Africa. You're providing them opportunities to earn money and then to spend that money in a way. Tell us a little bit about how you identified this problem. You were living there. Is this very personal to you? Are you from a tech background yourself?
Actually, I'm from Japan. And until 25 years ago, I never go out of Japan. But when I go out, I'm obsessed to go out from Japan. And I have traveled more than 100 countries ever. And wow. Africa is my last destination I met. And especially in the countryside, like rural villages, they live vividly, they enjoy the living, but they are poor because of the reasons they cannot overcome by themselves. For example, there's no infrastructure, no electricity, no water, no telecommunication, no logistics, because they are poor. No infrastructure company doesn't care of these people because they are poor and not profitable. But people are there and live vividly. So I want to change their lives through my life.
Fantastic. Can you take us a bit through how it works? I think there are several parts, let's say, to the ecosystem you've built. I think there are three main components.
Yes. So first, we have built the infrastructure, telecom and digital infrastructure for village people in ultra cheap ways. That is because we should be profitable with our activities to be sustainable in the village, whereas the telecom company never enter because of the less profitability. So first, we provide the infrastructure. We also provide a smartphone so that they could access to the digital services and internet. And also, we provide the digital services especially the service is important product for us as well as for their village people. We connect them to the rest of the world, and especially currently with Japanese companies, to provide them the digital gig works. Village people could do the digital gig works through their smartphone and earn the income from Japan. So that's what we are doing, and they could increase their income through us.
So you essentially have villages that, because of the remote and rural nature of their location and it being in Africa, it's not that you need to necessarily change their lives because they're happy. They have close families, they have culture, but what they're missing is access and opportunity. So you have created a small, rural, maybe even village by village network, and are providing access for digital gigging jobs. What's one of the type of jobs that a villager who now is getting your intranet of opportunities within their village, what's one of the type of jobs that they might see from this Japanese enterprise?
Mainly, we now provide them the AI annotation. AI annotation is like tagging on the photos, movies for the AI learning. Currently, Japanese company outsourced a job to, say, Southeast Asia, but they are looking for more opportunity all other part of the world. And we connect the company to our African village clients. So that's one of the example we could give a job for our village people.
And you also said, if I understood it correctly, the actual village is not connected to the wider internet. It's a mesh network. Do you also provide power and things like that when you said infrastructure?
Yes. In general, there are such villages, no electricity, as I mentioned. So we are also setting up the solar panel and the battery to power supply to our equipments. We also supply the power for the phone charging of the customers' smartphones. So that is never existing in such villages.
And you have a local agent, or is there some sort of person running the village? Who's the person that acts between you as an organization and the village? How does that work?
Yes. Firstly, we have employees. There are, in case Benampi employee who taking care of up to 20 villages. And then each village, we also hire the commission-based agent who live in the village and are taking care of their neighbors, our neighbors in the village for .4. So that's structure we have built in each village.
And so you have an agent in the village because it's a gigging economy for digital work like AI tagging, right? Which, if I understand their language at this moment isn't a challenge just because we're talking about images, right? At least in the example that you gave. But then how are they paid? What happens? You have this village, you're providing access to these, to bridge the digital divide. You put a network in that, whether or not it connects to the wider internet, is giving them access to this marketplace. They perform some digital job. How do you now pay them?
So the Japanese company pay first to .4, and .4 will have already built the payment system with our client. So we pay to them what they receive. So Japanese company, .4, and the individual village people.
And so do you pay through like an M-Pesa or mobile marketing situation?
Yes, we use such a mobile money solution provided by the telecom company in each country, like Orange,
yes,
MTN, something like that.
Mobile money is what I meant. I think I said mobile marketing, but yes. And you're paying them in physical currency, the CFA franc in Africa, which is the currency in how many African nations? 14
African countries using the currency.
And that really allows for your growth plan. How many countries are you in currently?
2, Benin and Senegal.
Okay.
And how many villages are you covering?
More than 200 villages in Benin and 15 in Senegal.
Fantastic. And one of the areas we didn't explore, because of course you're now giving these people, let's say, money. They've got money previously they didn't have, so that's a good thing. Do they have to use their money to finance the mobile phones that they're given or other things? And then I think you mentioned it's a marketplace, right? So there's also the aspect of, can they buy other things through the marketplace? Maybe could you share a bit more on that?
Yes, so we first sell the smartphone or financing smartphone for our customers, and then they keep paying back to us from the increased income of the gig work we provided. Right. Then they could access to more and more items to our marketplace as an installment purchase. And we also provide them the credit score based on the repayment history of smartphones and after the items they purchased from our marketplace. So after few months or 1 year later, they get a credit score as well, and they have access to more and more financial services.
Amazing.
So you also got payment installments for additional services or goods on top. So you're releasing them, if you like. Okay, so that allows them to spread the costs as well, but also get early advantage. That's pretty cool. And those, I think you mentioned, or let's say, if I understood it correctly, you've got these Japanese companies which are one providing the gig economy work, but there are other companies who may be wanting to sell goods and services to these communities. Have I understood it correctly?
Yes, exactly. For example, we are currently partnering with our motorbike company, Honda. We sell Honda motorbike for village people. That will make easier to do some like a motorbike tax.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I wasn't even thinking large scale because in Africa, especially something like a motorbike, you're creating value on so many levels. You're going in and you're bridging the digital divide. That's value number one. You're bringing network access, power into these villages and providing them access to information, which even if you weren't specifically providing then a marketplace of opportunity, access to information is an opportunity. So there's one, right? Then you're bringing together companies that really, motorbikes in Africa have a real value. They have a real income-based, save a family, build a village type value. Is that something you're really curating? We're not just flooding it in with things like needing fancy or funny or cute, what do you call these for our phones? Just frivolous type. You're not just selling frivolous type stuff. Are you actively cultivating things that are that kind of important for the village, like motorbikes?
Yes, exactly. So first, after the smartphone, our next item on the marketplace is something related to their job, like a motorbike for motorbike taxi drivers, agriculture equipment for the farmers, equipment for, say, painters, or something like that. So one by one, enter the digital gig economy, and then they start a new business with a new equipment through our marketplace. Then they increase their income enough, they could start purchasing their fancy things like a TV set, refrigerator, maybe air conditioner, cars, house can be, something like that.
That's the idea. Fantastic.
So then you've got this marketplace. Then you're providing them financing on these larger items because you've established a relationship with them. You know that they're working, right? Like Stripe or Square in some of the first world entities. You're doing your startup business. You're a hairstylist. Stripe will give you a loan and they'll take a percentage of the commission, a percentage of what you earn to pay themselves back. So there's security in you being able to be the financier, both of the smartphone, and you create a relation. This is phenomenal work.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. Agreed. And one thing we like to tiggle out of these discussions is, I imagine you've seen it with your own eyes, have you? Like people's lives changing. Do people come up to you and thank you? Or have you come across families that are like going, our lives have changed because of this? Has that happened?
Yes, currently many of the families start to increase their income and access to more and more. And also they could let their children to go to the school, for example. School,
right.
Yeah, that things actually happened with us. So I'm really happy to see the people smiling. So they are smiling even before, but now smile more with enough income and more things they could do or ability to do with enough money.
So how are you intending to scale the business further, may I ask? And how do you see other people benefiting? You are a business, but are you wanting to franchise at all or just scale it? Because it seems to be Japanese centric at the moment. Obviously, you're Japanese, and I looked online, your team is Japanese, which is all great, but how are you wanting to internationalize this and maybe take it to other countries?
That is one of the reasons I'm joining in the Network X in France, because we are operating in the Francophone African countries. And I saw many French companies are already in the market, but only in the cities. So I won't bring them to the rural area through our platform or customer touch points and data points. And they know about the market, but I won't know more about the further market in Francophone African market. So I want to meet more partners in France or from Europe to join in this initiative, this project.
Fantastic. Do you follow the UN ESG and sustainability goals at all? It's one of the things we like to ask. Are you aware of which ones you impact? Is it something you care about, or are you just more on a practical level of just getting on with it?
So one thing is, of course, there are enough infrastructures and also solving the inequity. And also, I'm now talking with the Benin Ministry of the Education, whether we could apply our system to the education for kids. So that also affects like education.
How do you see that working? Because again, right now, would you add it into the intranet? Right? Because one of the reasons you're able to be successful at providing access in these rural communities is because you're not going in like a big telco pretending that you're going to build a 5G network, right? You're really building a specific solution that's going to help raise the community out of poverty in perhaps a hope that at some point that bringing up of human beings on our planet, the raising of others in this world will get to a point that the telco then wants to come in or the electric company has an interest in coming in. How would you then bring education into this kind of this intranet situation, or would it change your model?
Currently, we build that infrastructure, intranet infrastructure, because there's no infrastructure like that. And we have a touch. From now on, we only the company who could have a touch point and who also have a data of individuals and credit score. So these will be our asset in the future, even though any telecom company are joining. So we just use that the access touching point and accumulated data and collaborate with a telecom company to deliver more service, more value for our village people. So I'm waiting for telecom company joining or expanding their business into the rural markets.
Yes, because as I understand it at the moment, Carlos, the intranet is loaded with your marketplace of job opportunities and purchasing opportunities. So products and jobs. How would you load or how would you add educational content to that intranet today?
We also provide a video streaming service. Up to 6,000 videos are available in our digital platform. So people could actually learn. So we providing half entertainment videos and the half are vocational training videos. We just adding the educational content on it for the children. That's easy for us to expand our business to education sectors.
I understand now. So you've got three things really in the platform. You have content, but a mix of entertainment and educational content or vocational content, really adult focused vocational content. Then you have the job offers. So let's say, does the vocational content link to skills that they might need to execute the job offers that are available within the marketplace?
Exactly. Once they learn something new for their new job or what their job or firming, then they purchase the item to implement what they learned through the vocational videos. And then they start their job with their knowledge and their products and item purchased from us. Then increase their income and purchase again with us. So such kind of cycle is coming.
So this now brings it to the point. Who's the genius behind this?
Yeah.
So I came up this idea when I was in Cuba.
Let's have a clap here. Let's go for it.
People think you can't make money and do good. And not only here, you got big ticket items. You're creating loyalty. You're driving value at every single point of the chain. You're eliminating risk. Right? You're bridging the digital divide. This is the kind of thinking that we need for our future. This is the kind of thinking that creates equality among humans. This is the kind of thinking that allows for fair distribution of wealth. This is the kind of thinking that takes advantage of the fact that having access to information is the great human equalizer of our time and actually does something with it. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying how you came up with it. So
we did.
Can you explain that? Are we interrupted then? Because we were too busy clapping.
Yes. So this idea came up when I was in Cuba 10 years ago. And at that time, there's no infrastructure like a telecom or internet infrastructure for whole Cuban people.
Right.
But there are only 2 Wi-Fi hotspots in Havana. And I saw people going to that spot and access to the internet by paying $5 for 30 minutes connection, even though their monthly income is $20.
Wow.
So I was surprised how eager people want to connect, even they use 1/4 of their income. They wanted to connect. So that was very interesting. And then I thought, how we could build the infrastructure in Cuba without paying billions of dollars for initial payment. Then this intranet idea came. So this is the story of the Dots for 10 years ago in Cuba.
Have you implemented it before Africa, or is it stuck in your mind and developed? Because obviously this ecosystem is multi-sided, as we saw. So it takes some time to build the relationships with your Japanese customers. So it must have taken some time to build this. Where are we now in that journey? How long have you been going?
At that time, 10 years ago in Cuba, still a lot of blockage I faced. Like one is our accessible device is too expensive. Smartphone, laptop was 10 times more expensive than current price points. And also the access points like the Wi-Fi equipment are way expensive and we have to build from scratch. But 10 years later, when I was working in Tanzania in the previous company and saw the situation in the villages, the idea came back again to me. That was the correct time and correct place to start that idea. Not in Cuba 10 years ago, but now in Africa, in village. So this is how
And you mentioned Tanzania. So you've already built this in Tanzania as well, or not? It's only in Benin and only, I shouldn't say that. I'm not saying it negatively, but let's say, have you done it in other countries already in Africa?
No, Benin was first. The idea came back to me in Tanzania, but I did research which part of Africa is the best
made the most sense to start with. Yes, I see that. And what I want to point out from this story, because I think it is so genuinely authentic to the entrepreneurial journey, is that sometimes the idea is good and the timing isn't right. And that's why an entrepreneur keeps these things in your mind, right? You keep doing, you keep moving. But how hard has it been? Although looking at your model, if I were the CEO at Honda or the CEO at Hanes, because good cotton clothing could go a long way, and they probably have AI issues that they want tagged. But I can see how this values. How hard has it been to get the companies to participate, to convince them that an African village is going to do a good job tagging and notating their AI requests?
Actually, there's a lot of these complaints or about African villages. Not complaint, but the stereotypical image of Africa.
Right, stereotypes.
And African rural stereotypes. So many people think it's civil war, poverty, hunger.
Yeah.
So business never exists in such area or Africa. I have been told like that. But actually, we have enough transactions, for example, customer bases and payment histories. We verify there is a market. Then the people or companies start changing their mind. And especially still, there are some people who are interested in Africa. Then we are the good opportunity for them to try something. So we started this company 3 years ago, October 2021. First 2 years, we also struggled to verify what we are doing is correct. But this year, many Japanese companies are now partnership with us and do some POCs or actually start selling something with us.
Okay.
And so things are changing by showing them we verify this is this, and then they get convinced and join with us.
You said at the beginning of the podcast, we're talking about in your probably 14 African nations that are currently under this franc currency, which is the currency you're operating in at the moment. There's something like 800 million unconnected individuals. We don't have to run massive financial projections on anything to know that a dollar, even if we simplify that into a single franc, if you've got 40 million of 800 million people, 40 million francs, right? That's once a month. What if it's once a week that they're paying that dollar, right? There is a lot of value in providing incremental payment access, that credit portion, the financial portion of what you're doing, improving the value backwards, which I think is part of the brilliance of what you've done. Are you seeing, like Ian had asked, Bill Gates does his goalkeeper report every year on the US sustainability goals. It's something that we are trying to track through our entrepreneurs and those who are doing good. Do you really feel like the program is aligned with any of the major sustainability goals that the UN has set out for us as a world society?
Actually, I don't much care about sustainable development goals, but as a result, we align.
Okay.
So
Right.
That's good.
First, we do what we could do, but after we know it to align. So something like that. And I think we should be like that. So starting from SDG goals is somehow blur your eyes. But starting from what I want to do, it's more pure motivation, just aligned to UN goals or something like that.
I think that's it. Pure motivation is how entrepreneurs end up doing tech for good, because it genuinely requires that, right? To be able to think of a profit structure that values both parties, three parties, the middle person, the end person, and the producer. It takes coming from a good place. But the number one is no poverty. This is very much what you're doing, right? Number 8 is decent work and economic growth. Absolutely, you touch on that. Number 10 is reduced inequalities, right? Like responsible consumption and production. You guys are doing a lot of really phenomenal stuff within this one platform that is really a capitalistic platform at its heart, right? It's about buying, lending, and earning.
Yeah, and motivating as well.
Yes, exactly.
So would you like to give a shout out to anyone? This is an opportunity we like to give because there are heroes out there which needs to be celebrated.
I want to celebrate our village clients who join as a first penguin. And many of other village people follow. So that was tough to be a first person do this project, but he become successful person and be a good role model.
You've actually made an interesting point. Frankie was talking about getting the industry to, let's say, buy into it. But you've just pointed out, actually, the challenge seems to be just as much to get the villagers to understand the value of the system. Seems to have been just as much of a headache, let's say, or a challenge for you. Very interesting indeed. Do you see yourself as part of the digital economy, or to what extent do you see yourself somehow part of the telecom industry, or is that just, I don't know, where do you fit in there, do you feel?
I define myself as traveler, not person in the digital life. I love to travel all over the world. I'm still under my travel of life, Africa. So, and .co company. So this is how I'm.
So Carlos, what is going to bring you to Network X?
So since we are Japanese companies and Japanese partnership, we have been built so far, but because European companies has a history of the traction with Africa, I want to talk with European companies and join in this project to actually expanding not only the capital cities, but also rural areas. I want them to go with us. So that's the reason I joined in the Network X.
So is this your first time at Network X, or?
Yes, this is first time.
So the main thing, as you just said, is that's what we're looking forward to, is to try and network and establish more relationships.
Yes, exactly.
And I imagine you need relationships with the mobile network operators to do the payment type of stuff. You need relationships with French companies who have digital gigging opportunities, which could be the telcos themselves. But really, anybody who wants to be part of this circular economy, who might not only have jobs to offer, but also products then to sell. I would say anybody at Network X, make sure to take a look for Carlos. Carlos, you are speaking on the startup stage. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. I'm now preparing for that.
And what day is that?
It's the second day, 9, I think.
First thing in the morning.
That's great. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Is there a philosophy that you have to your life?
Yes, traveler is one of them. And philosophy, I want to pay back to my parents. My parents passed away. My mother 20 years ago, my father 30 years ago. So I cannot do pay back to my parents directly, but what I'm doing here in Africa is how we could pay back to my parents and show my parents, especially my mother, is correct. They leave some influence on the earth because her son, me, influence a lot on the earth. And I want my mother to be proud of me when I die, when I meet in the heaven. So that's my philosophy behind of everything.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's really interesting to hear about your philosophy of life. I've got goose pimples, we call it in English. Amazing. And really pleased that your parents have brought up such a great guy. That would be my comment on that. You say you're a traveler, but do you obviously have over time, you've built up some technical knowledge to do what you've done as well with that. So do you have a background at all in telecoms or digital?
Actually, not really, but I have done many different types of the jobs. My first career, so my first academic diploma is physics. But my first career is working at the restaurant shop as a manager. And then I jump into the funding agency of the Japanese government who provides academic research funding.
Okay.
And then I went to the business school in the US. And then I joined in Amazon Japan and a big Japanese company to expand their restaurant POS system out of Japan to US, Europe, then working for a startup the media startup expanding their business to Southeast Asia. And the last one is Africa electricity startup in Africa, in Tanzania. Then I started my job. So a lot of things I did, and I could do everything with, say, 80% quality or something like that.
Fantastic. But I must admit, you look too young to have done all that, to be quite frank. So,
yeah. I'm 45 years old, and next month, 46. I will be.
Oh, well, congratulations. And so one area you didn't explain, and we always think that's interesting because people often end up, when they're adults, being different to what they were in a teenager. What were you going to do when you're a teenager, when you're mid-teens? Did you have a particular thing you wanted to be?
Same as other teenagers. I want to be a musician. I play the bass guitar.
Okay.
And until 30, I played in the band and tried to be famous as a band musician.
Wow.
But
did you
then
write music as well?
Yes.
So what is your passion?
My passion? I want to know everything, everywhere, and touch, talk, meet, see, everything, everywhere, every time, all over the world.
Do you hate it when people say you have to do one thing at a time?
Yeah, something like that. Because the more you know, the more you have multiple perspectives or points of view, and you could see one thing from the different view, you might think differently. And I know it. Once I know it, I cannot stop knowing something new.
Wow. Great.
I think for entrepreneurs, at least for myself, people telling me to do one thing, or again, it's all the information crosses in your brain, right? To create connections that help find solutions, which inspire ideas, right? The more information you have, the more curious you are, which I think for me is a fundamental piece of my entrepreneurialism is my curiosity, wanting to learn, wanting to know. Do you find that it's hard not to take things personally? Do you find that being an entrepreneur is different and more personal than, say, working at Amazon?
I like Amazon. I still refer our organization as Amazon's. But as an employee, I want to do something differently and more flexible if I have my startup. So I think Amazon never give me an opportunity to do my job in Africa, but I could do with my company. So more flexibility fits to my personality.
So coming back to some of these areas, what do you do when you're not working?
Since I'm living in Benin with my family, 2 small kids and a wife, I have to take care of my family. So especially my son is 2 years old and my daughter is 5 years old. And they still need a father. I taking care of them.
Yeah, so not a lot of free time.
Only free time I get permitted for my wife is I do my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training. I've been training for more than 10 years. And still in Benin, I try twice per week.
Fantastic. That's a good one. You've been to amazing places, you said, more than 100 countries. So is there somewhere that sort of left an impression with you and left an impact on you that you think people should be aware of, and why did it impact with you?
It might sound a little bit negative, but that was Egypt 2013. I was in the summer intern of my MBA at the time, and there the revolution taking place, the coup d'etat happened in Egypt. And I was in the middle of the coup d'etat in Cairo. And I
Wow.
saw the people shouting, shooting each other, the army coming. I saw many people get injured in front of me. That make me more impact that people would die, or so I might die like my parents. So I have to live my life as I'm going to die maybe tomorrow. That moment, I want to regret, and it to make me go farther as much as possible. I want to do as much as possible for my life.
That's really powerful. And what's the legacy? What's the legacy you want to leave?
So I want African people in 1,000 years later talking about thoughtful. So when I was in, say, Africa or Middle East, Central Asia, Muslim country, people pray for, say, God. And that was very powerful moment I felt. And the region, not only Muslim, Christianity, people are still walking, still moving. How can I say? So people still do something defined thousands of years ago. So I want to be influential, not a person, but I want to impact on the people in thousands of years. Any type of religions did in 10,000 years or more ago.
So bring it back to a more sort of shorter time frame. What do you think is in the next 10 years is the next big thing? Is there something particular that you're a bit visionary? What do you imagine in the next 10 years is going to be the big thing?
At least Benin, Senegal, people living in village don't need to go to cities unwillingly. They are going to city for money. Apart from their family, the family are living in their villages, but their, say, father, bigger brother have to go to the city for money and meet only once or twice a year. I want to stop that things.
Yeah.
That's for could do to more opportunity for the family to earn money and stay together in their born village with their family, their friends, and so on. So that must happen within the 10 year. At least there are countries where we are operating in, like a Benin or Senegal or Salesforce countries.
Fantastic. My always philosophy on that is when people move, I say, why do you move? I think you're an exception because you move because you've got hunger for information and to learn. But most people generally are less, let's say, motivated.
Adventurous.
And it's normal, it's adventurous. And it's mainly around either money or love is the reason why I tend to find people move. It's one or the other. But
right.
there we go.
A job or a person.
Job or a person. So if we come on to a slightly different angle to this, which is we've all no doubt science fiction. When you grew up, you also saw science fiction. Is there something that you've came across in science fiction world when you were young, which you really wish nowadays was real?
There is a famous Japanese manga and animation, Doraemon, in which there is a door. Once you open it, you could go wherever you want. Teleportation door. That's what I wanted to get in the future when I was a kid. And maybe internet is digital. We realize that one in the world.
Yes.
So somehow what I'm doing now is try to implement what's that teleportation door in reality in Africa.
I can tell you, if we did a list here of interviews, there are certain themes coming up repeatedly. So there's a market there for sure. That's a good one.
Obviously, in the world of telecommunications, there's a base rivalry. And so we are curious, are you an Apple person or an Android person?
I like Apple products. So Apple products has a kind of, how can I say, somehow like a mission in the product. That's what I like.
Okay, that's good. It's been a real pleasure to have you on our podcast and look forward to meeting you in person in Paris at Network X.
Yes, it's really been a fascinating conversation, Carlos. And I think what you're doing is very important. And I am very glad that we get to be a part of spreading the word about what you're doing in Africa and how you're really creating a very profitable, sustainable model to allow for the digital divide and the gig economy to flourish, really, which is wonderful. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to our new podcast. If you have any feedback or know of any stories to be told involving digital technology and telecoms doing good, then please do let us know via our email, getinTouch@digiteltalk.com. Also, feel free to send us a message on LinkedIn. It would be great to hear from you. We are excited to share that we are partnering with Network X, one of the leading telecoms events in Europe, the crossroads of digital, fixed and mobile communications, taking place in Paris between the 8th and 10th of October. Digital Talk will be there to interview some of the most promising contributors to sustainability and tech for good. Don't miss out and book your pass to be inspired, connect and network. Hope to see you there.
Before we go, if you've enjoyed today's episode and would like to support the podcast, then don't forget to give us a follow and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Also, if you'd like to leave us a review or share it with your colleagues, it really helps us on the channel. Thanks so much for being a part of our audience today, and hopefully you'll join us next time.
That's all we've got time for, so it's goodbye from me.
And that's goodbye from him.
Bye
for now.
now.